Mark Zuckerberg um, is a cagey and wily guy, and he has built a great American company, and he's become one of the richest people in the world, and he continues to do things with Facebook and with Instagram that suggests an understanding of what consumers want and also how to stay one step ahead of the federal government because there's all sorts of reasons why the federal government might be tempted to legislate about Facebook and Instagram just as they've legislated about TikTok. Not for the same reasons, but because these big companies have a lot of influence and some say they abuse it. So Mark Zuckerberg today, his company, did a second thing, much to the liking of conservatives and of MAGA and of Donald Trump. Earlier, as we've talked about here, they dropped their content supervision, where they were going to fact check and supervise the content posted by users. They scrapped that idea, and that's something that conservatives largely have objected to. And then today they announced that they were getting rid of their DEI policies for the most part, altering them, but largely scaling them back, as McDonald's and other companies have announced. These are things that are, again, to the liking of conservatives. The interpretation of many is he's doing this to curry favor with Donald Trump and MAGA. Conservatives are crowing, uh, but you could argue that they're doing making these changes in the case of DEI. One, because the courts have started to move in that direction, and they're trying to, as they said in their announcement, stay in line with the interpretation of policy and the law. But also, it may be that they think that these are actually good policy changes, because there are certainly tens of millions of Americans who think they are good policy changes, and perhaps they just decided that's the case. The New York Times is reporting that Zuckerberg either is currently or was at some point this week visiting Mar-a-Lago. And Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan today and talked about the policy change, but he also talked about an experience that his company had with the Biden administration during COVID. And what he said has caused quite a ruckus. Let's play that, please. Number 4.
These people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse, and it's like these documents it's all kind of out there.
Oh, did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails. the emails are published. It's all kind of out there, and they're like, and basically it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. They want us to take down this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio looking at a TV talking about how 10 years from now or something, you're going to see an ad that says, okay, if you took a COVID vaccine, you're eligible for, for this kind of payment, like this sort of like class action lawsuit type meme. And they're like, no, you have to take that down. And we just said, no, we're not going to take down humor and satire. We're not going to take down things that are true. And then at some point, I guess, I don't know, it flipped a bit. I mean, Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then like all these different agencies and branches of government basically just like started investigating and coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Wow.
So if you look at the history of the company, they were largely aligned with the left through 2016. And then in 2016, the Trump campaign was very aggressive about using Facebook, and Facebook liaisoned with them in a way that was extremely helpful to the Trump campaign. And Zuckerberg was warned about foreign interference in the election by foreign actors using Facebook, and by all accounts did nothing about it. And then Trump wins, and they have a certain relationship that it was improved from 2017 to 2021 or so. But then Biden wins, and they go back to being in bed with the liberals. And then, as he just recounted, the Biden administration basically, from his account, can't tell you that it's 100% true, but for his account, they pressured the company on content, asked the company to basically be thought police, not just for things that were wrong, but for things they didn't like, and then investigated the company when they didn't like them. Okay? So I'm glad he's telling this story now, and I wish he had more documentation, and I wish he named names, but I also wish he'd said it at the time. You know, these are by his own account. You can hear the tone of his voice. These are outrageous actions for the federal government to intimidate and threaten private company like that. I think again, I want to know more of the facts, but just on the face of it, not a great thing. Even though these companies are unprecedented in their role in the history of the world, they're giant, they're monopolistic, they have great influence over public opinion. There's certainly reason to believe that there is a public interest in understanding what they do and in making sure that they don't harm our country. No doubt about that. But what he's describing is something very different. What he's describing is the use of federal power to intimidate and threaten and coerce. And I wish he'd said it at the time. And as I said, I wish he had more specifics. I don't think the way he's doing it is so great because he's basically making assertions about specific conversations. Well, who was on the conversations? When were they? What documentation is there? I'm sure people took notes. How did they actually respond? It seems a little too cute the way he's doing it to me to say, here's this clean narrative. We stood up to the Biden folks, and then they came after us. That's another way it would appear, whatever the intention, it's another way to curry favor with the Trump administration to just be out there saying how horrible liberals are, and of course this is of a piece with what they did regarding Hunter Biden and the laptop and other information that would have been damaging in the 2020 campaign.